We are live. Welcome to Football Outsiders Live, streaming on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook. My God, we are everywhere now. Also available after the fact on the Football Outsiders Podcast Network. You'll want to check that out on your favorite podcast service. Please subscribe to our show, whether it's subscribing to our YouTube or to podcasts, no matter what it is. We would love for you to subscribe to our show. Remember, we are here at 1 p.m. Eastern, all 5 days of the week. Well, of the weekdays, not the weekends, not during games on Sunday, but Monday through Friday, we are here, 1 p.m. Eastern. Ian O'Connor is my usual Monday guest. He is not here today because he got married this weekend. Congratulations to Ian. And we have as our guest instead Cale Clinton from Football Outsiders. You know him from the Week in Quotes and from Any Given Sunday. Hello, Cale.
How we doing, Aaron?
I hope that Week 5 treated you as well as it treated me. I did very well in fantasy this week.
Me as well. I capitalized a lot on that high-scoring high-scoring Chargers-Browns game.
Oh yeah, do you have Herbert or do you have Mayfield?
I've got two teams where one team is Herbert and Keenan, the other team is Austin Eckler and Mike Williams. So that little Browns push-in right at the end pushed me over the edge.
That's awesome. See, it's nice that the Cleveland Browns were nice enough to help you win your fantasy game. We're going to talk about the Chargers and the Browns later in the show, absolutely. But we want to start with the biggest game of the weekend, which was the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. Last night, going really late. Did you make it till the end? I did make it till the end.
I held out. Honestly, for a matchup like that, I think it had to be worth it.
I almost took a nap during the lightning delay, but I never knew when the lightning delay was going to end, so I didn't know when to set my alarm for to wake back up. But the game itself actually turned into a bit of a snoozer at the end because the Bills were so incredibly dominant. And it's interesting because in the past, when the Chiefs have played top defenses, normally their offense has overwhelmed the top defense that they've played against. Not in this game. The defense of the Bills, which was number 1 in DVOA going into the game, dominated the offense of the Chiefs, which was also number 1 in DVOA going into the game. And by the way, is still number 1 after the game. I mean, because the Chiefs offense was so good in the first 4 games, they're still number 1 for the year. They've played a very hard schedule of opposing defenses so far this year. And so their offense is still really good. It's just their defense is so incredibly bad. It is the 7th worst defense we've ever tracked through 5 weeks. So I think in the question of, is Josh Allen that good or is the Chiefs defense that bad? I think it's sort of 50-50. Allen had his best game of the year, but my God, the Chiefs defense, Daniel Sorensen is constantly out of position. I asked people online what they thought was wrong with the Chiefs defense. They're not bringing as much pressure as years past, which is meaning creating more pressure on the linebackers. And the linebackers was always the weakness of the Chiefs defense. And then certain players like Sorensen have declined. And then no Chris Jones yesterday.
Yeah, no, that's definitely been a problem. And I think you're right. It is a bit 50-50. I was really impressed with the Bills offense just in terms of how consistently they were able to move the ball. It really didn't look like there was a ton of stoppage. Really, not much resistance from that Chiefs D. But at the same time, Dawson Knox had that 53-yard TD. Emmanuel Sanders had a 35-yard touchdown. Stephon Diggs had that 61-yard catch where it looked like he stopped up to kind of taunt.
Like he forgot that there were defenders. Like he was like, well, I'm past all the defenders. Now I can go in. And then it turned out he wasn't past all the defenders.
Yeah, and they ended up not scoring a touchdown on that play. But, 3 massive gains for that Bills defense in just what looked like complete lapses in coverage. That Dawson Knox touchdown especially, Sorensen kind of held on for 5-6 seconds, which, for a safety feels like the appropriate amount of time to hold on as long as you can before you start to look back toward the line of scrimmage and toward the actual play. But, yeah, it just – Buffalo was really able to capitalize on some busted coverage there.
Yeah, there was also a lot of sloppy play by Kansas City. The interceptions were just, right off Tyreek Hill's hands. That's a rare interception. Tipped in the air by a defensive lineman. I mean, I know Lucas Niang, the right tackle, had problems all game with whoever he was blocking, Gregory Rousseau on that play, but that seemed a little fluky to me. I guess I am a lot more sanguine about the Chiefs than I think a lot of people. I think a lot of people are coming away from this game like, the Chiefs are just not a good team. And I think that the better takeaway from this game is the Bills are a really good, really well-rounded team. And I would worry less about the Chiefs going forward than other people seem to be worried, because offensively, they're still strong, and offense is more predictive and more consistent than defense. I can't imagine the defense is going to be this bad for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I mean, they've played a really, really tough slate of offenses, especially between Cleveland, Baltimore, LA, Buffalo. Like, it's been a really, really tough schedule for the Chiefs going forward. I still get a little bit concerned because even the Eagles were able to hang 30 on them. But
in the past, you mean it's been a tough schedule? They have the number 1 schedule so far by DVOA, number 21 going forward. It gets much easier from here.
No, what they've played so far, definitely. But I mean, also credit to Buffalo. It's an incredibly deep roster. NBC kept flashing the snap counts for all the defensive players they were able to rotate in. And again, really, hats off to the Bills secondary, just because it is a very rare occasion that Mecole Hardman is going to be leading the team in receiving yards and receptions. Holding Tyreek Hill to 7 of 13 from 63, longest of 17. Holding Kelsey to 6 of 10, 57 yards and a touchdown, longest of 15. It was a pretty impressive performance. I understand, Mahomes just looked off a little bit this year, and I think especially last night he was
underthrowing. He was underthrowing things. He was kind of bouncing the ball a little bit.
Yeah, but I mean, just Buffalo's ability to create pressure with just rushing 4, being able to drop a bunch of guys back. It felt like Mahomes either had to roll out of the pocket or had a hand in his face every time he was throwing the ball. And he's one of those few quarterbacks that really, no matter what, is going to try and extend the play and make that throw because he has that athletic ability. And in the past, the Chiefs have had a pretty high level of turnover-worthy plays and throwing into dangerous situations. And they've lucked out. They haven't had this many turnovers in a season in forever. So it's, now it's starting to shake the other way.
Yeah, well, I think that's going to regress a little bit to the mean, too. I mean, he's got, 6 picks so far through 5 games. He's not going to throw 20 picks this season.
No, that's just not in his wheelhouse, I don't think, of possible outcomes.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire got injured and might be out for the year, and a lot of people are seeing that as another reason for the Chiefs to worry. I don't think it's a reason to worry at all. I don't think there's really any difference between Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Darrell Williams, and I think they're fine.
I'd almost argue it's a bit of an improvement, not to knock Clyde Edwards-Helaire too much, but if you're looking at Ben Baldwin's EPA per play numbers from the game log last night, Edwards-Helaire had a minus 0.32 EPA per play on 7 rushing attempts. Darrell Williams had a minus 0.03 through 5 plays. It was every time they handed the ball off to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, it felt like it was just a blown-up play. And I think you're at least going to get a little bit of regression back to norm, at least just baseline levels with Darrell Williams and having Jerick McKinnon as the backup running back there.
No significant impactful plays or coaching decisions from this game. If people have not seen the Monday show in the past, we'll go through impactful plays and impactful coaching decisions from this weekend, and there are not. This game was just too much of a blowout. And I'm also going to point out, I mentioned that the Chiefs' schedule gets easier, but the Bills' schedule is so easy the rest of the way. That is why in our playoff odds right now, they win the number 1 seed in the AFC 57% of the time. Their remaining average DVOA of opponent is minus 14%. No other team is below minus 10. In fact, for the whole season, if you look at the average DVOA of their opponents, it would be the 3rd easiest schedule we have ever tracked, behind only the 99 Rams and the 91 Bills.
They've got their slate coming up. They've got Tennessee next week, which, depending on what Tennessee team we get, that could that could pose a bit of a challenge, but I don't think it's too much. And then they go on after the bye week in week 7, they go on a 3-week streak of hosting Miami, at Jacksonville, at the Jets. Like, it's looking pretty cakey. They've got to play the Jets 2 more times. They close their season with the Jets. They've got to play New England 2 more times. It's looking like the Bills, are starting to run away with the AFC a little bit, considering their schedule going forward. Definitely, they faced some. I think the Chiefs was probably their biggest test, and winning at Arrowhead, especially that, and in the weather conditions and everything, in such a decisive victory. People might overreact a little bit, but if this Bills offense can continue to operate where just above average, right at average. I think coming into this game, they were 17th, exactly a 0.0% DVOA, like league average especially.
Yeah. Now they're at 6.2%, which is 11th on offense.
And that defense especially too. This should be listen, it's Bills to lose right now.
Yeah, it is the Bills to lose right now because I think they win the Super Bowl in 25% of our simulations this year because they're so strong right now and because their schedule is so easy, giving them such a strong shot at the number 1 seed. Ryan Crinigan says, we may have missed this. Why did the Chiefs respond to too high coverage by going so short in the short game? So many 4 to 5 yard stick routes and RPOs to the outside. Yeah, I'd have to rewatch the game on all 22, which of course is difficult to do now. You can see the all 22 on Game Pass, but it's complicated trying to figure out where it is. But I guess I would be surprised that they didn't do more of trying to go like to corner routes, the whole, the deep hole in the cover 2. But I mean, this is what teams are doing against the Chiefs as they're making them throw short. And the thing is that Mahomes was bouncing some of those passes or they were going off guys' hands. And I think that's just the defense that they're playing. And the thing is that the Chiefs normally have such a strong success rate, even on short stuff, that you can't stop them that way. But this game, Mahomes was just a bit off and the receivers dropped passes. And so they didn't have the strong success rate on the short stuff.
Yeah, and the pouring rain especially is going to play a factor. It's really uncharacteristic to have a ball bounce off Tyreek Hill's hands and into the arms of another defenseman. But it was, I don't know. There were just moments where Mahomes was skipping the balls off the turf, missing guys. It really felt uncharacteristic for just what we've seen out of Mahomes in the last couple of years.
I think people will overreact to this game because it was on national TV. That is not how Mahomes has played in the first 4 weeks of the season.
No,
that was like without opponent adjustments, that may have been the worst game Mahomes has played in the NFL. But it's not like he played that way in weeks 1 through 4. I think we can say it's possible that was a little fluky, combined with the rain, combined with the quality of the Bills' defense. I don't think that the Chiefs are going to have a terrible, or even an average offense the rest of the way. I think they're the best offense in the NFL, and they're going to continue to be the best offense in the NFL, even if you take away the deep stuff from them. And the defense, as bad as it is, defense is less consistent than offense. It's probably going to be better the rest of the way. The problem is they're 2 games behind the Chargers, and they don't have the tiebreaker, so they're probably a wild card, which means they have to win 3 games on the road to get to the Super Bowl. Although road and home barely seem to matter anymore. I think it's the winning 3 games that matters more than the home and road at this point.
Yeah, they've never been in this situation before. They've never had to play in a wild card game. And they've also never had to play on the road in the playoffs beyond.
Not with Mahomes at quarterback. They haven't had.
No, yeah, in the Mahomes era.
2 questions right here about whether Brady topped Peyton Manning for the all-time regular season DYAR mark this week. Yes. Tom Brady took over the all-time regular season passing DYAR mark this week. Vince is writing all about it for Quick Reads tomorrow. So that is the subject of tomorrow's Quick Reads. And yes, Brady is now, he had the best game of the year. He's now number 1 for the year in passing DYAR, which essentially makes him the MVP favorite, I guess, by our numbers. And he now has the all-time lead in regular season passing DYAR. So big week for Tom Brady, who apparently is injured, and they're going to have to manage his thumb injury, whatever that means. But I'm sure he was fine with it in the second half of this game this week, so I'm sure he's going to be fine with it going forward.
Yeah, I think I saw a post from someone that it looks like he's going to be fine. He's going to be able to play this Thursday, and they're just monitoring it. But I mean, it's still mind-boggling how Brady's able to impress at such an age. I can't believe that this past Sunday was his first ever 400-yard, 5-touchdown game, coming in at 44 years old. Every time you think it's going to not regress, but it's going to at least slow down.
He's got to hit age at some point. It happened to everybody else. Like it may not happen till he's 50, but at some point it has to happen.
Listen, Father Time is undefeated, but he is on the ropes right now. It is not looking great.
Yeah. He's undefeated, but he may have to take this one to like 40 rounds. I mean, given the Brady's attitude, my theory is Brady will not stop until Father Time shows up. I think the decline is going to happen before Brady retires because he's never going to quit. I just don't know. It might be for 5 more years.
It really, I don't know. I think Brady's going to, have to get dragged off the field, and it'll have to look really bad, like, a Peyton level last season where he's really, unable to throw the ball, or, kind of what Ben Roethlisberger is looking like right now. But I think
I would more expect a Marino or Breeze type last season where he's average than I would a Peyton last season where he's hideous.
Yeah, no, that is fair. I don't think he'd let his image get tarnished like that. But he's going to go as long as his legs will hold him up there.
Let's talk about the weirdest game of the afternoon, and that is Packers versus Bengals. So we're going to talk here about game states and probabilities because it's nuts. Okay, the Bengals tied it at 22 in the fourth. At that point, Green Bay missed a field goal. Then Cincinnati missed a field goal, which was 4th and 2 on the Green Bay 39. It ends up the third worst play call of the weekend. 6.2% win probability loss. They should have gone for it on 4th and 2 from the Green Bay 39. Then you get to the end of regulation with Green Bay. 2nd and 10 on the Cincinnati 33 with 1 second left. Mason Crosby's field goal attempt, no good. Win probability lost 39%, making that the 4th most impactful play of the weekend. Then you get to overtime. Okay, Bengals throw an interception with 9:55 left in overtime. Gives the Packers a chance to win the game. Win probability loss 51%, 2nd most impactful play of the weekend. The Packers miss a field goal. Again, 8:15 left, 54% win probability loss. The most impactful play of the weekend. Then the Bengals missed a field goal again. And I don't know why my notes don't have the win probability loss for that one, but it was probably a lot. Then the Packers get the ball back and finally make one. So for the game, Mason Crosby was 4 for 7 on field goals, and Evan McPherson was 0 for 2. And we have a little graphic on the screen showing what the drive chart looked like. It was crazy. I was convinced it was going to end in a tie. It did not. What do you think?
It felt destined to win the tie. I mean, the win probability model by the end of the game looked like an EKG model. Like, it just was up, down, up, down, up, down, crossing that 50% margin. But I mean, that felt like a game in years past that, it's all right. Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay is going to pull this one out. It had it written all over. Mason Crosby continuing to miss field goals. I'm shocked that Green Bay sent him out one last time to make that game winner. I mean, good for him for having the fortitude to kind of stick with it and not get in his own head. But I'm honestly more impressed by the Bengals at this point. I still am laughing at the Evan McPherson celebrating when he missed that second overtime field goal.
Yeah, he thought it had gone through and he missed it, and he was celebrating. It was a little crazy.
Flicked the flag on the leftmost post of the field goal. If you look in the background of that replay, it has a tight shot of him celebrating with his long snapper. And as he starts to notice, the Packers players are already celebrating in the background. But, I mean, yeah, credit to the Bengals. Like, they're a catastrophic missed field goal fiasco away from being 4-1 up there with the Bills and Chargers atop the AFC East. This is in a team that, is supposed to be in the midst of a rebuild, starting to work things out. They're really stringing some impressive wins together. And it's, the decision to draft Jamar Chase over rebuilding this offensive line.
It is looking good. Jamar Chase has been amazing.
It's been really impressive.
I will say in this game, Green Bay did end up with the higher DVOA, 1.5% compared to minus 25.5 for Cincinnati. But on the season, Cincinnati is higher. Cincinnati is 12th and Green Bay is 15th, owing in large part to that first week against the Saints where they were so horrible. Both of these teams are about to see their schedule get a lot harder. Cincinnati's schedule goes from 29th to 13th. Green Bay goes from 15th to 2nd, the second hardest remaining schedule. The hardest remaining schedule belongs to the Washington football team. And Useful Baker says, don't the Bengals get a tie like every season? I know they had one last season against the Eagles. Yes, that's another reason why I thought this was going to end up in a tie, is that it does seem to happen to Cincinnati more than other teams, but it didn't. Let's talk about the most impactful plays of the week. These are the plays that had the most impact on the game in terms of win probability, either positive or negative. And guess what? Almost this entire list is Cincinnati and Green Bay. Number 5 from the Lions-Vikings game. Oh, poor Lions. When the Vikings
for Dan Campbell.
game-winning field goal, we give that a win probability gain of 38.4%. And the Lions are the first team in NFL history to lose 2 games in a season on field goals of 50 or more yards at the buzzer, and it's happened to them twice in 3 weeks.
I mean, it's very uncharacteristic of the Minnesota Vikings to win on a long field goal.
Yes.
But, I mean, I'm not going to keep giving too much credit to losing teams, but that Dan Campbell press conference at the end of the game really, tugged the heartstrings. This is a guy that really cares about this team, really wants to – I mean, them going for 2 to win the game and, definitively try and fight for this one. I was really impressed with that decision, just actually making the 2-point conversion, fighting to go for it instead of playing for the overtime, playing for the tie. This is – I hope – that Detroit is able to build some kind of team around Dan Campbell, because he is a guy that is going to, unlike Matt Patricia trying to emulate tough guy, hardo, Bill Belichick Patriots model without the actual credibility to back it up. Dan Campbell is getting guys to buy into a system and overperform.
Because I don't think he's a hardo. I think he's a hardo when it comes to how you treat the other team. He's like, we're going to go break their kneecaps. But I don't think it doesn't sound.
No, I was calling Matt Patricia like the hard guy running sprints.
Oh, yeah. Matt Patricia was a jerk to his players.
Yeah, no, I think Dan Campbell is a really genuine guy that's actually getting Detroit players to actually buy into the system and really fight hard. I think it's really been impressive so far. I'm not calling Dan Campbell a hardo at all.
No, yeah. I feel like he's gotten the buy-in. And Ryan Cranigan says, speaking of the Lions, do their series of close losses have any predictive value? I'm curious if really bad teams have to get to close losses before they get to close wins, or if it's not quite that linear. And I would say it's not quite that linear, but any advanced metric you use, whether it's just looking at points scored and allowed, or an EPA metric, or DVOA, close losses will come out better than big losses. And they'll come out closer to wins. And a lot of times close losses and close wins are very similar in DVOA. Detroit, I will say for this game, had a positive DVOA. Both teams had a positive DVOA for this game. So, I mean, Detroit is 27th right now at 0-5. I mean, that's reasonably good for an 0-5 team. It's not like any 0-5 team is going to be good, but I mean, I think these close losses absolutely suggest that Detroit is better than an 0-5 team that gets spanked all the time, like the Jacksonville Jaguars. Here's what I'm going to say, though, because you talked about the 2-point conversion decision, and that's going to come up, so I'm going to get to it early. When we talk about bad decisions, based on win probability, the 2-point conversion was actually a bad decision. I understand that based on showing your team that you have confidence in them, it may have been a good decision. But you actually lost 6% win probability on that decision. And the reason why is it's a 50-50 shot to make the 2-point conversion, you got to figure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if let's say it's the end of the game and you make one of those 2-point conversions, now it's a 50-50 shot to win or lose. Okay. With 40 seconds left, it's not a 50-50 shot to win or lose, because if you miss it, you lose. And if you make it, the other team still has 40 seconds to come back and score a field goal on you, and they have a reason to be more aggressive, whereas if you just kick the extra point, the other team probably kneels on the ball and goes to overtime, but instead they have to be aggressive, and that's exactly what happened in this case. Is the Vikings came back and scored. So actually going for 2 in the win only makes sense if there's no time left in the game.
I completely understand that. It just felt in the sequence of the game. Obviously, this isn't numbers dependent or anything, but the Lions got gifted that Madison fumble. It almost looked like it came out of the the fullback for Minnesota actually popped it out because he was trying to drive him forward. It looked like he kind of pried his arm loose that jarred the ball open. So they kind of got gifted that. I think if it did go to OT, Minnesota kind of had that one in the bag. Detroit couldn't get the offense going all game. So I understand, it doesn't shake out in win probability. But again, I'm just excited about the fact that this Detroit Lions team, Dan Campbell especially, they've got some fight in them. And again, playing these games as close as they do, something's going to shake out at some point. One of these is going to break their way. It has to.
Yeah, I don't think that my over 5 wins is going to happen for this year, though.
No, I don't think it will. But,
they're setting up for us to like them again next year, which I'm sick and tired of doing every preseason. So don't forget, please, to rate and review and subscribe to all the Football Outsider shows. If you're watching us now on whichever platform you are watching us on, don't forget we're here at 1:00 Eastern every day talking football. Tomorrow will be Scott Spratt and Derek Klassen with the Fantasy Show talking about your waiver wire picks and preparing you for Week 6. But here we are, me and Cale Clinton, still reviewing Week 5. Let's talk about the best coaching decisions as far as win probability. Number 5, I can't believe we're talking about this coach in a positive way, but Urban Meyer going for it, trailing 14-6 with 10 minutes left, 4th and 1 on the Tennessee 1, not kicking that field goal. Win probability added 4.8%.
The decision was good. I still think, even in Urban Meyer's good moments, there's something bad going on.
Second quarter with 10 minutes left that he went for it, yes.
Yeah, even in Urban Meyer's quote-unquote highlights, there's, some bad side to it. I'm still surprised by the play call not going for some form of QB sneak there. Urban Meyer after the game said it was because of, a level of comfort. They hadn't played it with Trevor Lawrence. And then Trevor Lawrence in his own press conference said, no, I actually am comfortable with that. We can run it anytime we want. So, even in the best moments for Urban Meyer's Jaguars, they continue to not be on the same page.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence is a tall, big dude. He should be able to sneak.
Yeah,
exactly. And he thinks he can sneak, so he should be able to sneak.
Yeah.
Here's the number 4 decision, and here's a coach who we often talk about negatively when it comes to 4th down decisions, but he was very aggressive this week, and that's Kyle Shanahan. 7:53 left in the game, 4th and 4, Arizona 48. Instead of punting, trailing 10-7, Kyle Shanahan goes for it. Win probability added 5.3%. It's nice to see Kyle Shanahan being aggressive.
Yeah, finally shaking out well for once. It's, it is surprising watching him, kind of punt in these situations. I'm glad it's starting to go the other way.
Number 3 decision, Urban Meyer again, 10:29 left in the game on the Tennessee goal line. Urban Meyer goes for it, trailing 31-19. Win probability added 5.7%. Good for you, Urban Meyer, even if you've completely lost your locker room. The number 2 coaching decision, Kevin Stefanski. This was, battle of the analytic coaches. 57 seconds left in quarter 2, 4th and 1 on the Chargers 3, trailing 13-10. Stefanski went for it, 6.6% win probability added. And we'll get to talking about the Browns and Chargers in a little bit. Number 1 decision of the week, Kyle Shanahan again. 9:23 left in the game, 4th and 1 on the Arizona 48, trailing 10-7. Could have punted, but no, Shanahan went for it. Win probability added 9.2%.
When the game's that close, especially a low-scoring game with an offense like Arizona's, you've got to make those decisions. You've got to be able to actually be aggressive and fight for those wins.
Like we always say, in the modern NFL, with as much offense as there is in today's NFL, possession matters more than field position. I will point out, we were talking about this before the show. Neither of us got to watch much of this game. So we don't have any deep thoughts for you about Trey Lance and how he looked. But I will point out that for both Arizona and San Francisco, this was their first negative DVOA offense game of the year. Both Arizona and San Francisco are in our top 10. The entire NFC West is in the top 10, although that will not last, thanks to Geno Smith. Arizona is number 3 overall in DVOA, and what's most impressive to me is that defense, despite the secondary that had so many questions coming into the season, has been phenomenal. They are number 4. J.J. Watt and Chandler Jones are just rocking it, and I'm so surprised by how good the Arizona defense has been.
Yeah, it's nice to see Arizona win a game where this is the first time this season where they didn't score 30-plus points in a game. So it is actually really nice to see them kind of get a low-scoring defensive win under their belt and actually, prove somewhat that this is a well-rounded team that isn't just leaning all on their high-flying offense.
It's only 5 games, but
yes.
So far, 8th in offense, 4th on defense, 3rd on special teams. That is a well-rounded team.
I would have never anticipated this team being a top 5 defensive DVOA team headed into this season.
No, not at all. Again, want to remind everybody, watch the live stream over Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, etc. You can ask us questions on the live stream. That's why you want to be here live, 1 o'clock Eastern every day. And we'll take questions about week 5 as whoever wants to ask. But first, let's talk about the worst coaching decisions of the week. Here we go, starting with a couple of coaches in a Thursday night game that usually make our bad coaching decisions list a lot. Pete Carroll punting at the start of the game when it was 0-0, 4th and 3 on the Rams 43. Win probability lost 4.3% is our number 5 worst decision of the week. And then our number 4 worst decision of the week is Sean McVay punting at the end of the game with 2:17 left. 4th and 8 on his own 36, leading 23-17. Win probability lost 4.5%. I know that is counterintuitive, but the fact is your chances of converting that, if you convert that for a first down, the game is over. And if you give the ball back to Seattle, even if they score a touchdown to go ahead, you likely have enough time to come back with the field goals. I don't remember how many timeouts there were at the time, but I understand it's a counterintuitive thing as far as the numbers go, and I'm not going to criticize him too much for punting on 4th and 8 in his own side of the field, but it did lose win probability. Do you have any thoughts about Thursday night watching Seahawks versus Rams?
It feels like a blur, after such a long weekend of action. But yeah, it's Pete Carroll, especially that punt. I thought like you said, I don't think you can fault Los Angeles too much for punting in that position, especially when it's a 4th and 8 that long. But I mean, have a little bit more fight in you, Pete.
4th and 3 on the 43, on the opposing 43. Go for it.
Yeah.
Don't punt. Number 3, worst decision of the week we already covered is the 2-point conversion by Dan Campbell, 5.9% win probability lost. Number 2, we already covered with Packers-Bengals, and that was the decision to have Evan McPherson try a 57-yard field goal, 4th and 2 on the Green Bay 39 with 26 seconds left, when that is a tough field goal, and the better proposition would have been to try to get the 4th and 2 and then get a closer field goal. Number 1, and this is kind of mind-blowing, and I we love Kevin Stefanski and Brandon Staley, and I understand why. I believe somebody already called Frank Frigo crazy for writing about this in Risky Business on Football Outsiders. 4th quarter, 2 minutes and 12 seconds left, 4th and 6, Cleveland on their own 18, only leading by 1 point. Believe it or not, that punt was an 18% win probability loss. And I know that sounds crazy, but if you convert the 4th and 6, the game is pretty much over at that point, I believe. The Chargers possibly get the ball back with like 10 or 15 seconds. Whereas if you punt, you put them in a position where they get the ball back needing only a field goal to take the lead. And in fact, what happened was they scored a touchdown. But again, it's going to take, like, we've really gone a lot from where we were 20 years ago when it comes to 4th and 1 and even 4th and 2 in the NFL. But for teams to be willing to go for it on 4th and long on their own end of the field, no matter what the win probability says, it's going to take a lot more development of analytics, I think.
Yeah, and it did look like it was a game that almost looked ahead of its time, and just how aggressive both of these teams were in going for it on 4th down and really pushing the field. But I mean, you saw it come down to time at the end of the game. The Browns, had their timeouts. If they end up going for it and missing that, they've gotten extra, that last touchdown drive by LA, which, by the way, even after the punt, they took over the ball on Cleveland's side of the 50-yard line.
Yes.
So they really didn't have that much farther to march down. If the Browns go for it and miss, they actually have more time on the clock to go. Browns don't have to burn all of their timeouts. They don't have to push Austin Eckler into the end zone. They've got more time to play with, and maybe they've got an extra chance to actually drive down and score and put this one away.
I don't know what to do with the Chargers because my system doesn't think they're great, and everyone thinks they're great. In fact, most of the advanced analytics systems don't think they're great. Before this game, I don't know about the updated, but before this game, ESPN's FPI only had them 10th. Athletics DPR only had them 16th. DVOA had them 14th. This game, it moves them up to 11th. But the fact is, this is a team that, other than the Raiders win, has played all close games, including their loss to the Cowboys. And advanced play-by-play metrics are just not completely convinced, even though people are talking about the Chargers like they're a great, great team. And also, their defense is not good. They let Cleveland score 42 points on them. And I realize a lot of that is just their run defense is not good. And I'd rather have bad run defense than pass defense. But even their pass defense fell to 11th this week. Their run defense is 31st. I don't know. What do you think about the Chargers? Do you think they're as super top Super Bowl contenders like everybody feels? Are you more in line with the advanced analytics that have them lower?
Listen, I've been a bit of a Justin Herbert darling since his premiere against Kansas City in Week 2 last year. Following him a little bit, I declared myself a Justin Herbert guy. So I'm a big fan of his. Hopped on the Herbert train early, but yeah, it feels on the defensive side of the ball, especially. This feels like a top-heavy defense. It's Derwin James is doing, incredible things. He's playing out of his mind. It's really great to see him.
If they lost either Bosa or James to an injury, bad.
Oh, it's real bad. And I think Asante Samuel Jr. has been really impressive early. I think they've gotten a lot out of him, especially as a rookie. But yeah, it feels like it's a defense led by its top players. And beyond that, they need to add more depth. They need, just a more well-rounded defensive roster.
Yeah. I mean, I know people feel like this is a top offense. DVOA does not. Has them 7th. That's a pretty good offense, but not in the same place that Tampa Bay is, not in the same place that the Chiefs are, not in the same place that the Rams are. And the other advanced analytics metrics have the same thing. But yet when you watch them, I mean, the eye test disagrees. The eye test, you're just like, this offense can't be stopped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think we've also compared Tampa Bay and LA have insanely deep skill position players. They've got 5-6 guys that they can turn to. And on the Chiefs side of the ball, they've got, Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Kelsey, who are each some of the top players, if not the top players of their position. So it's completely skewed that way. LA is really relying on Herbert to get it done, which, he has been, granted. But it's Eckler in the backfield, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen. They've got in their tight end game, they're working with
Cook and Parham, who are good, but they're not like, you don't have to prepare for them.
Respectable players. But I'd love to see, I don't think they're getting it's like Jalen Guyton's the third receiver on that team.
The Bucs and Rams have deeper casts.
Yeah, you've got to worry about their top guys, and then once you get past that, it's an average offense. It's a fine offense.
Before we preview Monday Night Football, you and I, being Patriots fans, should talk a little bit about the Patriots and Texans. Which side do you come out on? Hey, isn't it great that they had a comeback win? Or, wow, was the defense lousy and that was a moral loss, right? If the game against Tom Brady was a moral victory, this was a moral loss.
Honestly, definitely on the more moral loss side. The fact that this was nearly the Davis Mills coming out party.
Unbelievable.
Maybe Belichick and the Patriots defense really laid it all out there for the Tampa Bay game, and they thought this one would just fall into their laps and shake out the way they wanted to. And I try not to get too hyperbolic when writing Any Given Sunday, but sometimes I become not Any Given Sunday, audibles at the line. Sometimes I do become a victim of the moment. I said that this might have been Mac Jones' worst game as a Patriot because I think during the Saints game, I don't think
there were more almost interceptions, dropped interceptions, bad throws.
A lot of missed opportunities. And even the balls that he did complete, he really wasn't leading his receivers at all. If the Texans if the Texans defense didn't leave the entire middle of the field open for the Patriots to just pick apart all day, I don't think the Patriots are even in a position to come back. Two, the Texans had, in terms of special teams, I'd love to see the special teams DVOA numbers for the Texans coming out of this week because Kai Fairburn missing multiple extra points.
Minus 24%.
Yeah, missing multiple extra points and that field goal. And also that weird decision by Dan Culley to run the punter under center, drop back, and pooch punt it into his lineman's own helmet.
Well, it was probably not a decision to pooch punt it into his lineman's own helmet. That was probably an accident.
I don't think that was the game plan, but the weird setup was the thing that caused it. If he punts that right, he's got all the time. He's got all the room he wants to clear that ball. But punting it left, I think it was because he started running back and then catching the ball, and it was just how his positioning ended up. But that gives the Patriots the ball, the Texans 35-yard line, I think it was. The Texans did everything in their power to hand that game back to the Patriots. I don't really, in the win column, I charted it as a win, obviously, but that was not a victory for the Patriots.
I came away from it feeling like my pick of them to make the playoffs is not going to happen. They're just not good enough because even with their schedule getting easy, with the AFC South playing so badly, I think you have to chalk up probably a loss to Dallas this week.
Mhm.
And then very probably they lose to Buffalo twice.
New
And
England
at
is
that point, that's 6 losses. All they have to do is lose one more game to be 10-7 and probably miss the playoffs, lose 2 more games to be 9-8 and pretty definitely miss the playoffs. Like, even if they sweep the AFC South, which I think they can definitely do because the AFC South is awful, like, and beat the Jets again and beat Miami in their rematch, and it's not going to happen.
I mean, New England is really leaning on Bill Belichick's, win percentage against rookie quarterbacks because they have yet to beat a veteran.
Yeah. All right. Reminder, please, to check out content on Football Outsiders, folks. Risky Business, talking about the Chargers' decision not to kneel at the end of the game and the Browns' decision to punt late in the game, is up at Football Outsiders. Walkthrough by Mike Tanier, where he goes through all the AFC playoff teams and tries to figure out who on earth is going to win the third wild card, which might be the Patriots, but I don't think so. I think at this point, I think it's more likely to be the Bengals. Audibles at the line, of course, with all of our thoughts about Week 5. Check out the top 5s on EdjSports.com. And before we go, let's talk about Monday Night Football. It's the Colts and the Ravens, sort of a rivalry, kind of, because of the Baltimore Colts, although, Mike, it's been a long time that the Ravens have been in Baltimore. So Ravens are currently at -7. EdjSports fair value is at -7. The Football Outsiders pick is the Ravens -7. Edge also has it going under 46.5, but only 58% of the time, so that's not the greatest bet in the world. Do you have any thoughts personally about the Ravens and the Colts this evening?
I think the team with the most to lose in this game isn't even playing. Somewhere I saw online, if the season ended today, the Philadelphia Eagles would have 3 top 10 picks in the first round. And yes. I think if Indy loses this game, they fall to 1-4. And even though the AFC South feels wide open, despite every team refusing to win games, it probably shakes out that Indianapolis might start punting on the season. They
have to start thinking about not playing Carson Wentz so they keep their first-round pick.
Exactly. I think Indy has to win this game to even hope to hold on to this and have Carson. And, the Eagles want Indy to win this game because Carson Wentz has to hit that 75% of snaps mark for that pick to translate into a first for the Eagles.
Right. So the Eagles have to root for the Colts to be good enough to keep playing Wentz, but bad enough that they get a really good pick out of it.
Exactly.
Like they're really towing a fine line here.
It's a tightrope act for sure.
The Ravens are 7th in DVOA. The Colts are 25th. The Ravens are better in all 3 phases of the game so far this year. I went looking for Ravens weaknesses. They're only 26th against running backs in the passing game. So I thought maybe it's a big Nyheim Hines night for the Colts. They're only 30th against passes up the middle. But the Colts offense ranks 30th against on passes up the middle, 5.2 yards per attempt. So it's not like they're going to take advantage of that weakness. Baltimore is only 27th passing in the red zone, but that's the kind of thing that tends to regress towards the mean. And they're number 1 running in the red zone. Mm-hmm. And even though they're 27th passing in the red zone, among the 5 teams that are worst passing in the red zone, you will find the Indianapolis Colts, who are 29th. So, like everything, I mean, any given Sunday and all that, but everything points to Baltimore stomping in this game.
Yeah, exactly. I don't. I'm pretty, on Baltimore side in this one.
You're on the Baltimore Stomporama bandwagon. Baltimore -7.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Thank you for tuning in, folks. Thank you for listening to us on your favorite podcast app. Thanks for watching us on your favorite platform. Remember, we are live streaming every weekday, 1 p.m. Eastern, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook live. Tomorrow, again, Scott Spratt and Derek Klassen will be here to talk about your fantasy football team for Week 6. Everything is available after the fact on the Football Outsiders Podcast Network, so please check it out. And if you don't get to watch us live, listen in your car listen while you're working out, although you want to do it live because you can ask us questions. Please subscribe to the show on your favorite platform. Thank you, Cale Clinton, for joining us today.
Happy I got to fill in.
And Ian O'Connor should be back next week. I am Aaron Schatz. I will see you again on Wednesday. Everybody enjoy Monday Night Football tonight. So long.